Welcome to the CMO Spotlight. And today I'm super excited for this conversation because I'm here with Kelly Deen. And Kelly is the Chief Commercial Officer and also the Chief Marketing Officer for a company called kencko. Welcome, Kelly.
Thanks, Joe. Very excited to be doing this with you.
Absolutely. I've known you for a long, long time. And so again, I was very excited for this conversation. But so now you've been at kencko for a little over a year. I wondered if we could just start the conversation with you were telling us more about the company. What does kencko do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, uh, Kenko is a very mission-based company. It's a B Corp, and the mission of the company is super simple. It's just to help people get more fruits and vegetables into their life in a really, really easy way. So the core fact is that 90% of Americans don't get their recommended 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. And our goal is to improve that and make it really, really easy. So we're not about fad dieting or keto or being vegan, eat your pizza, have your burgers. We just want you to get some more fruits and veggies in there when you can. So everything that we do, the products we develop, the whole premise behind them are literally about that. And also very based in truthful nutritional scientific knowledge, right? So we're also kind of anti chemical supplements. We think that like nature is sort of the best ingredient list, and actually your body is most suited to absorb minerals and vitamins through food rather than through supplements. So it's actually the best way to get your nutrition if you can get it that way. Not everybody can. So the primary products that kencko sells are flash frozen, freeze dried instant smoothies in individual packets. And those smoothies are every sachet is filled with 2.5 servings of fruits and vegetables. So all the products really make it clear how many servings of fruits and veg you're getting. So if you have 2 smoothies a day, you're getting your 5 a day. We also have fruit bites, which are like little dessert treats. Not really gummies, not really like the kind of like fruit snacks that you find in the grocery store that are pure like gelatin and sugar and food dye. These are actual real fruits and vegetables, but they're sweet and delicious, but it's all 100% fruit and veg, no added anything, sugars, stabilizers, additives, nothing else. Maybe a little rice crisp in there or some cinnamon or something like that, but they're all very delicious and decadent, and those all have one full serving of fruit and vegetable in them. We had another line that we've sort of been beta testing and working on that are called bowls, and they're more like full meal bowls, um, derived in the same way as the smoothies, not full powder, obviously, because that would be weird, kind of like mush, but you rehydrate them with hot water, basically, and it might be soups or pastas or something like that. We're still kind of working through that line a bit. But the smoothie line and the fruit bites are much more mature, really successful in terms of how the company launched as a D2C subscription business, which we are now, as you know, scaling into omni-channel and retail, which is super exciting. But yeah, that's the premise behind kencko. Um, and the company is based in Portugal, actually in Lisbon, and that's where probably about 80% of our workforce is, but we do have some folks here in the US as well. And even with the company based in Portugal, the customer base is still it's over 90% US.
Hmm.
So all the more reason that we've kind of added more staff here in the US as well, that really understands the market and in terms of how we can grow. And I think actually that dual impact of like having both teams in Europe with a different sensibility and mentality, and as well as here in the US, is a huge compliment to what makes the company so special.
Yeah, well, and full disclosure, I am a kencko customer. I love the product. I drink the smoothies, and I make myself mix up a smoothie almost every day. And interestingly, some of the boxes full of smoothies have arrived from the United States, and some have actually arrived from Portugal, which is kind of cool.
Mhm.
And with my name on the box. When I open up the box, it says "Hi Joe," and then it's my box of um, where I could pick and choose which flavors I like the best each month to receive. So it's pretty neat to be able to customize which ones you like and want more of, that kind of thing. So just before we get to the rest of it, just really quickly, will you explain what a B Corp is? We've interviewed the CMO of Danone Yogurt, which is a B Corp, and Black and Bold Coffee, which is a B Corp, and a couple of others. But just really quickly, what does that mean that you're a B Corp?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So B Corp is a certification, right? So you could actually, what I love about this is it's an equal playing field, right? So it's not just saying like, oh, we're sustainable, or
Right.
because that could really be defined in a variety of ways by a company. So the B Corp initiative makes it all a level playing field. They have really specific things that you have to do and abide by in order to qualify as a B Corp. You actually have a rating within B Corp as well. And that's actually part of our OKRs, is always trying to improve and grow in our rating. But basically what it means is you have incorporated the concept of sustainability on multiple levels throughout the entire realm of your company. So it's not just one thing. You can't just have recyclable packaging or be, carbon neutral in your shipping. It usually also means that you have some kind of give back program. You're thinking about your whole supply chain, right? And how your business can positively impact things, whether that's working with local suppliers, which does reduce carbon, but also boosts the local economy. Or do you also incorporate cause realms into it, trying to better the planet in some way, shape, or form? But so you have to have a really comprehensive sustainability mindset and policies within the company that are also then audited and tracked, right? So you're held accountable. You can't maintain your B Corp status if you have not done all those things and continue to do those things and prove how you're doing them.
Awesome. So you've recently been promoted to Chief Commercial Officer. In addition to your original role was focused on marketing, and now it seems that it's grown beyond marketing. So tell us about what your role is today, and maybe even a little bit about your team.
Yeah, sure. I couldn't be more excited about this role. It feels like where I've been hoping to head for a long time in my career. I love marketing, always be a marketer for sure. But I think the longer you're in a realm of marketing and you start to really truly understand what you're trying to do as a marketer in terms of moving the business, you start to understand that it's like you've got one hand, right? And what I get to do now as a chief commercial officer is pull multiple levers of the company to try and grow the business. Marketing be a key one of them, but also really being able to take direct responsibility and leadership in our overall revenue path for the company. And it's even more exciting for me right now because we're at this scale up phase. Is not, I don't even kind of even call this a startup anymore, right? For 4 years, the company had been pure D2C. Last year, doing 30 million in revenue through just D2C, and this year we're completely flipping, right? The majority of our revenue will actually, not like over half, let's say, of our revenue this year will come in through wholesale, through the retail and wholesale side, and we'll still be doing D2C. We never intend to stop that. But that alone has like this massive implication on how we operate as a company, through efficiency, through product development, all the things we have to focus on to become profitable, which we will be this year for the first time, which is also
Wow.
super exciting.
Congratulations.
But I think, yeah, for me, it was really felt ready to help drive the full picture of the business. So as a commercial officer, that's what I'm doing. It's kind of laying forth the groundwork of our revenue path. And it has to be a sustainable revenue path, right? So you have to take into consideration our OpEx and the kind of team that we need and what makes the most sense for us from a mission perspective, and provide that guidance, and then work with the other other leaders in the organization to make that a reality. So the way our company is structured now is through this commercial team, of which, I'm over the commercial operations, which means who are our customers? Our customers are now direct consumers, and they're also wholesalers. So those are kind of like now the two key pieces of business, and there's teams now underneath each of them. And then we have like the other core drivers of those businesses outside of the product pieces themselves. So that's going to be marketing, social, affiliate, all the storytelling, all the organic channels that we do, our digital product, which is of course our storefront for D2C, but it has to achieve more than that as well, especially now, because that's how people will, if they're curious or they see us in store, they might want to learn more about what we're about, and we have to serve that purpose as well now. I also have our tech team under my group as well, mainly because we've gone through a big catharsis when it comes to our sort of digital infrastructure, and really spent a lot of time last year cleaning things up, and building a really strong digital backbone that would enable us to be super nimble on both the D2C side, but then also enable us to do all these things. Everything's digital now, right? All data, everything's the data is the blood that runs through the body and the organs of everything. And it's the same thing on the wholesale side, like everything that runs through EDIs and datas and inventory systems. And so really had to kind of get our digital platform and our technology in place in order to do that. So it made sense for that to continue to stay with me as well. And then we have a nutrition team, so which is a little bit different. This isn't mean R&D. It's not that kind of nutrition, although that team does consult with our product team to make sure that all the products we develop are not only nutritionally sound, but also up to the standards of kencko, right? Having the servings that we say they're going to have, being fully organic, doing all of the testing to ensure that's accurate if we make claims about the vitamins or the functional benefits of something. But greater than that is that kencko had also offered, and still does offer, for its D2C customers nutritional counseling for free as part of their ongoing subscription. And we're just sort of playing with that more. Like how can we utilize our very truly unbiased, we want you, of course, we want you to buy kencko because we think it's a great product for you to get fruits and vegetables, but we'll offer you nutritional advice that has nothing to do with that, right? And help you do meal planning and problem solve things that you want to problem solve, because that's really what we're about ultimately. So we have a team of registered dietitians and nutritionists, and I feel like this is a big point of difference and differentiator for kencko as a whole, as a food company. And I really am looking at this now as how can we use this as a way to further define our brand within consumers' mind, and make sure that we're really known for our unbiased point of view, and also very non-fad prescriptive information about nutrition. It's something that I find really resonates when we talk to consumers as well as with retailers. And so we're talking about doing all kinds of cool things, like maybe we have a nutrition series that's specific for, let's say if it's a Target, like red card holders, right? Like all these things are things that we're talking about because they're things that kencko can do and do really well, that others cannot. And it reinforces our position as someone being about really, sound, true, real nutrition advice.
I love that.
So that's our team. And then we've got acceleration teams that kind of then make everything else happen, right? Like I don't make the product. We have manufacturing and supply chain that does all of that. We have an astonishingly wonderful creative services team that helps us do a ton of things as well. We have a sustainability group, obviously the legal, finance, people, all those other amazing parts of the business that keep us going.
Excellent. So I'm going to, in the interest of time, I'm going to go through your career path super quickly, and I'm just going to explain it as far as I can tell, and then you can pick up where I leave off. So you began your career 3.5 years at IHG, one of the largest hotel chains in the world. Then 4 years at the Arthritis Foundation, 4 years at Earthlink. Then essentially you went over to Warner Media, where when I met you, you were director of marketing for the Cartoon Network, the kids. So you've had a extremely diverse, you went from there to Magic Leap down in Florida, which made augmented reality, goggles, mixed reality, and then to toy company Jazzwares, and then BoxyCharm for a minute before you ended up at Kencko. So you've worked in a lot of different industries. You've
Mhm.
worked across, for nonprofit. You've worked for media companies, to product, companies that develop products. So just tell me a little bit about that path, and maybe are there one or two things that you learned along the way that you bring to Kencko from one of those stops or two of those stops?
Yeah, I do have this like really crazy, probably pretty non-traditional, background. I feel very fortunate for all those positions, and every um almost every one of those roles and jobs and career changes had a really strong reason behind it, whether
Mhm.
it was personal, like somebody, a mentor, someone I worked with encouraged me to go work with them somewhere else. And that sounded really exciting. Or it was an emerging industry where there was something really timely happening in the world, like Earthlink, for example. It's like I laugh about it a little bit now, like Earthlink, but at the time, this was the early 2000s during the first tech boom. And
Explosion of the internet, right? Sure, sure.
and this was one of the most, technologically advanced places to be. This was the transition from dial-up into high speed into Wi-Fi, all within a couple of years. And that really excited me. So there's always something really that excited me about it. But I think the way I describe my career is I'm a consumer marketer. That's all. That is who I am. That is what I do. And um, and this is kind of the advice, some advice I impart too, is like I go where my interest is, where my passion is, because I feel like I have no interest in doing what I do at a place that doesn't excite me, and that I feel like I can't really get behind, because I'm going to get behind it like 200% and put in probably more hours than I should on something, but
Mhm.
it's because I love it and I believe in what we're going to be doing. Um, but yeah, there were lots of reasons. I come across people, especially now being in the food industry, who've done nothing but food or packaged goods their entire
Right.
career, and like I'm blown away by them. They have a depth of knowledge that I I love, because I'm learning so much still at this point in my career. And so I think that's another piece of it too, is I really thrive and love to learn, love to learn new things. But this incredibly diverse background, I find, benefits me all the time.
Mhm.
It's like these little threads of something I did before, a project, an industry I worked in, or whatever, whether it was a franchise thing or I worked on the Olympics when I was at IHG, the nonprofit realm, which was all about cause marketing and this tapping into, you know, emotional passion points, in a way that had never been done before, when cause marketing was getting going, that um, they've all benefited, like this toolbox. I feel like I've got a really full toolbox that's allowed me to step into a lot of different industries and often maybe approach things in a different way, which I found there's nothing I hate more than someone saying that's not the way we've always done it.
Yeah,
Uh,
right, right, right.
and because I feel like you're not really challenging yourself, or you can't really grow if you're not going beyond what you've always done. Um, but any of those moves, Joe, has always just been about something that felt really exciting and right at that time. Um, and I think if I had thought about it more, maybe there's some choices or things I would have done differently. Um, but for the most part, I've learned a tremendous amount from every one of them, and in my case, that crazy diverse background and career progression, I feel has helped me tremendously.
That's great. Well, so I'm curious. I believe that everybody has a superpower of some kind, and I'm curious what you believe, or maybe that you've been told your superpower is.
Yeah, I love this question. This was definitely I'm a big believer in this too. It's usually an interview question I even like to ask people when they're coming in. But so I had thought a lot about this, and I say this super tongue in cheek, but I usually say that I can see the future, and that's because I've been doing this for so long that a lot of times you can start to see like a recipe. you can start to see the bits and pieces formulating together, that crazy meme with like the mathematical symbols and everything else going off. It's like you kind of can see these things coming together, and
Mm-hmm.
the direction they're going to head in, it kind of starts to feel just really second nature. Even really big problem solving, it's like just that being able to take a lot of detail and parse it into a story, or a direction. So I joke and say that's about like seeing the future, but like I like 75% of the time I'm right.
Well, I'm super disappointed that you didn't say that your superpower is dominating everybody you play at Scrabble.
Oh God, well, I don't really, I don't want to brag or anything about that, but it
that's a
is,
secondary superpower for
it
you.
is in the family. It does run in the family, that's for
It
sure.
does.
Fierce
So
Scrabble playing, yeah.
fierce. So I'm curious if there's specific values that you want to demonstrate as a leader, or maybe even demand for anybody that would be on your team. Are there certain values that you really are core to you, professionally and maybe personally too?
Yeah, for sure. And that has definitely changed a lot over time, and probably the area that I've done like the most introspection on,
Mhm.
especially in like the past few years, for sure. But I think like I I think transparency, like really real transparency to the absolute degree that you can, is super important. But kindness as well. So I think like what I try to go with is, and not everybody is the same type of personality. I recognize that too. I have a personality that wants to be very direct, right? But you can be direct with kindness. You can be uh, direct and help people understand the big picture, or um, not just say this is what the company's doing, but why, or what that means, right? Break it down to what it means to the rest of the team. So I think like being kind, and being really transparent and open, fostering an environment where people can say what they want to say. They can feel free to ask questions and question decisions. Um,
Mhm.
in fact, that is what I would require, if anything, is that I would never want anyone to take anything I say at face value. If they questioned it, absolutely do that, because there's lots of times that people have questioned something that I've said or thought, and I've been like, it's a really, really good point. And so I like that kind of environment. I actually really, really like that kind of banter, and I think, and then I think also just celebrating each other. The concept of like having each other's back, but also, and this kind of goes with the kindness piece, it has to be really genuine and you have to really mean it. But like, um, I think recognizing other people on the team, their accomplishments, looking for even small things that people have done to contribute and go out of their way to help. It's just really important to have an environment where that's shared, because I think everybody likes to feel appreciated, and everyone wants to feel like they've contributed in some way. And so I think those are just really, really important things that to me.
I love it. So, as you know, setup helps marketers thrive by connecting them with the best people and the best resources. And usually that means that we connect marketers to agencies that can support them and fill gaps. And so we're not an agency, we're not on the client side, we're not a brand. We sort of live in that space between. So we think a lot about that agency client relationship. So I'm just curious, how, do you work with agencies today? And if so, how do you work with agencies, or maybe how have you worked with them in the past?
Yeah. Um, it's really, so this company where I'm at, kencko, is super interesting. Like we have some really amazing in-house skill set, being, by the pure nature of being a company that started as D2C and subscription. We have an amazing performance marketing team, and media team internally. We The company really, and I love this about it too, started with brand first, brand story, creating a really compelling brand story. So we have an amazing brand team and creative team internally as well. So where I tend to use agencies now is filling in the gaps of specialties and expertise that we don't have, or doesn't make sense for us to scale internally, at this time. So it would be right now we're on this big, wholesale journey. So it might be things like agencies that can really help us and supplement us in the shopper marketing realm, or that really understand the mechanics of retail.com. Another might be things like events and sampling, where like we're not going to have that kind of expertise in house, certainly not in Portugal for a company in the US, right? So I really look at things right now on a very like case by case basis, but at kencko, we have a lot of these core things covered internally, which I haven't always had at places that
Yeah.
I've been. Even with that said, though, I I am a really big believer in of and admire quite a few of the amazing creative agencies that are out there today. And we did engage with a creative agency to develop an amazing brand campaign that was shepherded with our internal group. So it was beautifully done. And I think we're also, just because we have an internal brand team doesn't mean we don't recognize that we can't
Mm.
see, have other people's vision come into play. But yeah, I think that's where we are right now. In the past, it's like it's always just really been about what does the company need to supplement versus what they have internally, and everywhere I've been has been super different.
And so to that point, I don't want to use the word always, but are there certain disciplines of marketing that you feel you want to own primarily in-house? And then are there certain disciplines that you feel you really could benefit from that outside perspective and you'd rather get somebody from the outside to do it? You kind of mentioned that with certain parts of the
Yeah,
business like sampling, but just generally, are there certain things you want to own versus you want to get outside?
yeah, for sure. I mean, I really feel like with media, for example, with the tools that are available today, um, and especially if you're doing any kind of performance based marketing or spending, like that has to be an in-house capability. There's the efficiency is so much greater when you can hire a small team that really knows how to, can really focus on it full time. You'll you'll always get a much better return if you can do that with an small internal team versus going with an agency. And I think that that's, just much better suited, right? You're living and breathing, you're working hand in hand, hopefully with an internal scrappy, small creative team. I think internal creative teams are really, really important as well. They don't have to be huge creative internal agencies, but they should have a wheelhouse specialty of the things you need all the time, right? And
Hmm.
so, like for us, our brand story is really important. So, like our organic channels are critically important to us. So, the social stories that we create, the content that we would create for paid ads for that performance media, the making sure that we have the right writing in place for our blogs and things like that. I think it's just so important to have that expertise in house that lives and breathes the brand all the time.
Hmm. Yes.
That would always be my idea. Like, and then supplement, right? Like supplement if you need something really specific on video or animation or a big thinking brand, big feeling campaign or something like that. And then yeah, I think the other specialties, I think like I love going out of house for, but because I think things change all the time. So, certainly for events, I think shopper marketing is another one. There's like constant technology. It's super exciting. I actually that realm of things like review generation or ways of engaging with people. Like, back in the olden days, it was like clipping coupons in the
Yes.
newspaper,
Or sweepstakes. Right.
sweepstakes, right? Like
Yeah.
now, everything is done via text. People can actually, go buy a product in the store, take a quick picture of their receipt, and then minutes later get reimbursed by the brand via Venmo, instead of
Yeah.
a coupon.
Right.
Like it's brilliant, right? And I think there's so many exciting things continuing to go on in that space that it's a really ideal area to either work with agencies or just external providers in that realm. I think the other piece is like on the media side too that I kind of struggle with a little bit is when you start going beyond performance media, whether that's connected TV or still trying to do like this more full funnel approach
Mm.
of digital. Like I'm still get a little caught up sometimes about whether it's best to try and do that all in house or or work a bit with external agencies, because I do think there are specialties there, and they can also get sometimes efficiencies on pricing and things like that that you can't get if you're a small player.
Right, right. Well, I was going to say, every company's marketing ecosystem looks very different, or their ideal marketing ecosystem looks very different, because I've also talked to marketers that said, oh, I absolutely don't want to do media planning and buying in-house because I want to benefit from the group buying power that a major holding company has or something, or, or I want to own, or I want external creative because I want fresh ideas flowing into the organization. But it just depends on your business and your model, what the right ecosystem is. And we've been providing a lot of consulting in that area about ecosystem planning and consulting to help companies think about what that right mix is of internal resources and external agencies or other partners might be.
Yeah, and that can change
It's
over
been,
time too, right? I
yeah,
mean, like,
a lot.
as your model
Yeah,
changes, as your scale changes, like, for sure, especially as your scale changes, there's things you want to be investing. You're doing actually more strategy, more
yeah.
category planning, line planning than maybe as much of the executional stuff.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm curious if there's a specific campaign or a program, either at kencko or in one of your previous lives, that taught you a lot because either it was a miserable failure and you learned a valuable lesson from it, or it was a huge success and maybe you'd like to emulate that again in the future.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, like, there have been more there, the failure type stuff that I think about is like more of, I mean, I think, well, I don't know if like everyone, but I've definitely made mistakes, and even mistakes as far as like things I'll never forget in my life, like you know, proofing an ad that's going in People Magazine 50 million times only for the word mobile to be spelled wrong or something like that. And just like want to just end it. But I think there's always things you learn, right? There's things that you think are going to go really well, or started off really good in concept, but then execution didn't make it, for one reason or another. Um, I mean, it feels like there's just so many all the time. Like, I think in terms of things that have gone well, a lot of times it's about I mean, like, the really fun, exciting stuff with marketing. I don't want to say it's all about budget and dollars, but the ability to do really creative and interesting things sometimes don't have a gigantic scalable impact, but have an impact that, um, you can see and repurpose. I'm thinking of a lot of things that we used to do, say like at Comic-Con, for example, when I was at Cartoon Network. And it wasn't necessarily just about that activation at Comic-Con. It was about then
Mm,
how we utilize that activation for promos on air or sweepstakes leading up to them, or tie-ins with the content later. Like, I think that's the stuff that always felt really exciting and much, much bigger than one thing, was when you could take a really cool creative idea and parlay that into a lot of different elements of a campaign. I could think of a bunch of those examples, when I was at Cartoon. Plus, we got to do just so many cool things. So like a really exciting experiential tie-in, with the Atlantis resorts out in the Bahamas.
oh yeah.
Where Cartoon Network took it over. I think what was exciting about that, and getting to lead a big piece of that, was, Disney has the parks. Nickelodeon had like a cruise and hotels at the time. And Cartoon Network didn't really have anything, right? Like experiential. And I think it was at the time really looking to get a much closer, relationship with its target audience. And the Atlantis thing was like really perfect. It was certainly not the scale of like a Disney World for sure, but really fun, exciting. And the same thing, like we were able to parlay that into so many other pieces
Yeah.
of the network.
It wasn't just about the experience for the consumers there. It was also about what were the content assets that you could create out of that and then purpose for other marketing beyond, and all of the extensions that happen that you wouldn't have had the opportunity had you not had a physical presence somewhere.
Yeah, I think, and then I think like really exciting stuff at kencko has just been bringing in a couple of fresh ideas, and it's not the big stuff; it's like the little
Mm,
stuff
mm.
that, like, uh, it's actually an idea that I totally stole from beauty, and the beauty box subscription was, we would have like uh, beauty products that were coming up on expiration date, or we had an excess inventory of certain things, and like, gosh, what's a good way to get rid of stuff? We would do mystery boxes, right? Like buy the
Mm,
mystery box. So you don't know what's in the box, but it's got a value of X and it's only going to cost you this much. So wouldn't it be fun to buy the mystery box? So we actually took this concept with kencko, like kind of during like the Black Friday and holiday time frame of, definitely not, we're not giving short dated stuff to people, but a nice variety of things that we maybe had extra stock of, as well as things that
yeah,
we knew people would like, and doing the mystery boxes. It's little things sometimes that you wouldn't expect to parlay from like one industry into another, but what ended up working really well.
that's a perfect example. And, it gives a little bit of that surprise and delight. For the consumer, planned surprise and delight. Like
Right.
maybe it's not dissimilar to when I was a kid and you'd buy a pack of baseball cards and you were hoping that maybe you'd get a Hall of Famer, a future Hall of Famer in the pack. Well, you hope that you maybe get something like really special in there, that you're excited about.
Yeah.
Um, oh, well, so okay, I've got two non-marketing, well, sort of marketing related questions, but just questions for fun to kind of close things out. So the first is there a movie or a book or a sports team or a band or a quote that really inspires you? And what is it about that particular thing that inspires you?
Oh God, I'm such a sci-fi nerd, like, and there's like this movie that I love that is not deniably not a super great critically well-known movie example, there's a line in it that I absolutely love and live by. So the movie's Vanilla Sky, and the quote is that every day is another chance to turn it all around, right?
Hmm.
And like I would think about that anytime, like if there's always one thing, at least one thing going on in my life that I wish I was doing better, working out more, or spending more time with the kids or something else. So like rather than try and like end the day or end something with a little bit of guilt, or focusing on like the things that are going wrong, I try to think about the possibilities of tomorrow, right? And so rather than get wrapped up in like something I feel like I'm not doing enough of, or not doing well enough in, or um, and I partly that into business as well, but like, it's tomorrow's just another chance, right? There's another chance tomorrow for me to completely do that thing I was hoping to do, or to try again, right? Maybe I
You,
wanted to
you
do it today and I didn't, but tomorrow's another day.
That's great. Well, you just reminded me of one of my favorite lyrics by Cardi B and Glorilla, which is that every day the sun don't shine, that's why I love tomorrow. That's why I love tomorrow. So same thing, right? This is the same thing. Tomorrow, mañana es una otro día, right? It's just,
That's
you have
right.
an opportunity to start fresh and anew tomorrow. So I love that. I love that. So to wrap things up, I'm curious if there's a brand that you love or really admire that you've never worked on, and what is it about that brand that you admire the most?
I think there's a couple that I think about a lot right now in particular. One of them is Bombas. I really
Mhm.
love this
The
brand,
socks, yeah, originally
Bombas.
socks company, yeah.
Yeah, socks, and they've branched off in other places, but I think I love them so much because I think we aspire to be a lot like that same kind of company at kencko, which is, you know, they're a for-profit business, obviously, right? But they have a mission. They started and are founded in a very particular idea of helping homeless people or underserved populations get their basic needs covered, right?
Mhm.
Like in homeless shelters, the number one thing that people look for is socks or underwear. Now they're getting into underwear as well. They're having they've chosen something really specific and built a whole business around helping to achieve that mission while making an amazingly terrific product at the same time. So like that's actually really hard to do. Like just making a great product and trying to sell it is hard enough, but like basically having an entire nonprofit or an entire socially driven mission behind it as well, and doing that well is is a whole other. And I really admire them. And I actually know one of the founders there. He's on the board of kencko,
Mm.
and and they're the real deal. They're totally the real deal, and I'm really inspired by them. And every time I talk to them, just how they even face business challenges, and I love how focused they're, just so focused all the time. And then another brand that I love more from a creative standpoint that like completely still blows my mind is Liquid Death. I like
Oh
absolutely love,
yeah,
I love this brand. I think, and what I love about them is like their fearlessness. Like I said, like put that stake in the ground and just
yeah,
own it. Like own it hardcore all the way. You know, their creativity is outstanding. You know, it's water. Okay. They're going
yeah.
into teas and all this other stuff now, which is also phenomenally creative and amazing. But they've gone all in on a brand. It also has a really great, actually, backbone of a mission behind it,
Yeah,
which is getting rid of plastic, single-use plastics, which
yeah.
I firmly believe in. And but I just I love a brand that just goes all in, you know, on an idea or a positioning and like is just relentless about it.
That's a great example. Well, I knew you'd have a couple of really good ones. I know you're a great admirer of good brands, which as any marketer should be. So, all right. So Kelly Deen, this has been such an amazing joy. Kelly is the Chief Commercial and Chief Marketing Officer for kencko. Thank you so much, Kelly. This has been such a joy for me.
Thanks, Joe. It's so fun chatting with you.